good with words and so forth. And I always liked his voice, very strong, boomy voice, And so anyway, and Steve was a different type of gentleman. He seldom speaks, but he was very down to earth, straightforward type guy, nice guy. So yeah, but Bruce never really let those things get to his head. He was always level. He would never be cocky or anything like that. Because to him, they're all friends. They're all people.
It was all just filled with energy, just boom, just bursting with energy. And so we talked for a little bit, and he said, "What have you been doing?" And then I said, "Well, all I've done is that things." "Yeah, but you did a lot of flicky stuff, flicky, bang, nothing really." I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "I've got a 1-inch punch that is better than anything you did." And I said, "Really? I'd like to see that." And he said, "Got a pillow?" So I stood up, put a pillow in front of me, and hold it, bang, like that. Knocked me into the chair. The chair fell down. I rolled over into the corner with a 1-inch punch. I got up and I said, "Let's go to work, man. That looks like fun."
He could tell, he had abilities that a lot of people don't know about. He told me, he says, "I can watch somebody walk around for about 5 minutes. I can just about tell you how he can fight." So he knew what your physical capabilities were, And he had things that we didn't have him around long enough to learn about all this. He is almost like he had a sixth sense,
He was single-minded. His total focus was on martial arts and his evolution of it. He wanted to be a movie star. And he wanted to use this in order to exemplify his art. And, to make money and do the things that he wanted. He wanted to make more money than Steve McQueen per film. And did for one film, anyway. He probably would have achieved more if he'd lived longer. But that was an aim that he accomplished. He accomplished most of his aims, I believe.
It was very difficult for Bruce to, to have to go back to Hong Kong, per se, to really make it. Because, he figured that, he's been here such a long time, and he's done the Green Hornet series, and it's got good it had good ratings, and, but since then, he struggled so hard to get a main role, but he never got one. So it got to a point where, his friend James Coburn talked to him and said, "Well, Bruce," he said, "if I were you, I will go back to your place of origin, which is Hong Kong." And he said, "Since martial arts is a universal language, if you make it big there," he said, "I'm sure, everywhere else in this world, people will want you, And that's what he did, and he made it.
He came back to Hong Kong, and of course, he brought his son and his whole family, as a matter of fact. But he brought his son to LaSalle. He came to see me straight from the airport. He came up to my office huffing and taking in tow his 2 children, Brandon and Sharon, and the wife trying to keep up with him. He said he greeted me and said he was so happy to see me again after so many years, and paid me a compliment for looking still so young.
Well, in the early days, he was appearing in Green Hornet over the television in Hong Kong. We are very proud to have a Chinese who feature overseas in American productions, and it's very good. And we know he's very good at martial art. So the first thing we did was to get him on Enjoy Yourself, which I was producing, and it was an instant success. It did contribute a lot because I believe even Raymond Chow, saw him on television, and I believe it was through the exposure on television and his demonstration and so on, brought perhaps to his attention.
The curious thing is, of course, that to read what Bruce wrote about the martial arts, about Jeet Kune Do and so forth, is very kind of soft, a minimalist approach to martial arts. And then you see him on the screen, and suddenly it's pow! My God, what's happening here? It's a totally different thing. But Bruce realized very well that there's a big difference between martial arts as a martial art, as a study, if you like, and how to express that on the screen. A, he knew what to do, and B, he had the ability to do it. And even though what he did on the screen was so much bigger and everything, more exaggerated than he would ever do or ever teach himself, it still had such authenticity behind it. Because, I mean, even if the expression was showy, the substance was real. Because he had that training, and he had this amazing persona, this character that just came roaring out through the screen.